Bellator 291 coverage rolls on here. Mike Pendleton on the Mic podcast with My MMA News. And I'm just going to keep rolling out the interviews with all the Irish fighters here from the States all the way over in Ireland there. Bellator 291 goes down February 25th. And this man, if you watch fighting in Ireland, he needs no introduction. He is one of the very best young prospects in the game. And he opens the show no matter who's closing it. One of the very young best fighters in the entire world, Darragh Kelly. Sir, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good.
So I just want to jump into it immediately. So far, I know you've just recently made your pro debut. You had plenty of amateur fights. You know, it's a little different over in the States, you know, trying to follow international fighters and watching how fighters, no matter where they live, their path to a professional career is always different. But when you made your professional debut at Bellator, the place already knew who you were. People were buying tickets simply for you. Sure, the card was stacked, but there were so many people out to see you. What has the journey been like in your career so far? And how much did it mean to you to make your professional debut with Bellator in Ireland?
Yeah, well, as you said, like people already knew who I was in Ireland because I had 8 out of 9 of my fights were in Ireland. So I built up a wee bit of a following, and especially locally. You know, I had especially for my first fight, I think I had almost 300 down from Donegal, which is like a 4-hour trip to Dublin. So, you know, there was plenty down there. And then to make my pro debut with Bellator, that was obviously a dream come true. Like those shows are said to be some of the best atmospheres in the world. So it was great to make the pro debut in a stage like that.
Yeah, I would say, you know, for me, the Bellator Ireland events are the best events of the year. You know, here in the States, everybody loves American football. We love the Super Bowl. But for me, Bellator Dublin is the Super Bowl in fighting, and it usually happens twice a year.
Yeah.
For you, and I know you're only 2 fights into your professional career. You obviously had plenty of amateur fights. You've never had a loss. I'll talk to you about that in a second. But can you describe the atmosphere, especially starting off your career, having done so, going back to Dublin with Bellator again? What is it like? Because I know what it's like covering it, not in the building, but covering it from afar, watching it on TV. You can feel the crowd's atmosphere through the TV. But when you're there fighting, can you describe what it's like to be on that stage?
That's kind of hard to describe. I don't know what you can compare it to, really. You know, it's chills walking out, like you shiver down my spine. You hear that many 10,000 people screaming, shouting, singing along to your walkout song. It really hypes me up. Obviously, I don't know what you could describe it to. It's one of the best feelings there is, I think, when they're really getting behind you. Even during the fight, you can hear them, the chants get going, and I don't know how you would describe it. It's crazy. So it is.
It's funny because I've asked every fighter from, you know, Ireland that I've had the opportunity to talk to this week to describe that. Nobody can describe it, and it shows just how special it is. But let me ask inside the cage, and you're the first fighter I've asked this to. When you're inside the cage, and I know you haven't had any problems inside the cage so far in your career, but when you're fighting and that crowd is going nuts, how much does it help you to keep pushing forward, to not overcommit, to really stay focused in the moment?
Yeah, well, I don't know about how it affects most people. It can have different effects on everyone, I suppose, but I really take positives from it. It definitely spurs me on a lot. I'm not sure why that is, but when I hear the crowd getting behind me and shouting, it just pushes me that wee bit further. I can dig that wee bit deeper. And I don't know why that is, but it definitely is something that pushes me on and helps me.
Now, I think obviously everywhere you go, anyone you talk to, if you train at SBG Ireland, if you're touted as a rising prospect, one of the very best young fighters in the game, like you are, there's always going to be comparisons. And I'm not here to ask you about Conor McGregor. What I'm here to ask you about, first and foremost, before I talk about SBG Ireland and your career and all that, is we've talked about the atmosphere. We've talked about fighting, in Ireland and what that means to you. But what does it mean to you to know you're part of the next generation of fighters? Because it's always, there's a history. And before, most recently it was Connor. Now it's people like yourself. And there will be young men and women after you who are looking at this fight at Bellator 291. They may stumble upon you for the first time, or they might watch you or finally get to go to the 3 Arena and watch you fight. What does that mean to you to know, yeah, I'm only 24 and I'm just starting off my career, but because of where you're from, it's so invested into fighting and mixed martial arts that you could possibly influence the next generation of fighters?
Yeah, well, like you said there about the waves coming through, and I think that's something, especially in Irish MMA. There's been obviously Connor that came up first with big names around him, and then the second wave came through, and now I think I'm part of the third wave. And Ireland in general, there's a big wave coming through, but I think in SBG, obviously I know a lot more about SBG. There's a massive wave coming through SBG at the minute, and I'll call it the third wave. There's a lot of prospects all around my age, and mostly in the lower weight classes too, I think. And I just want to really, the first two waves, I want to live up to them, and keep Irish MMA the standard high. And as you said, maybe it'll inspire the fourth or the fifth generation coming through. Who knows? But the first wave obviously set the bar, so it's just trying to live up to that, really. But I think we're going to do a good job. Now in the next few years, you'll see a real high level coming out of SBG.
Being with Team SBG Ireland, I have the utmost respect for Coach John Kavanagh. And when you have, like you said, that first wave, second wave, I like that you said you're part of the third wave. But so often, no matter what gym it is, you could pick the gym. These coaches have younger fighters like yourself that look at the wave or the generation before them. And sometimes too many fighters want to look at, well, I've got to hit that bar or I've got to be just like that fighter. One thing I think I like about John Kavanagh, well, I know I love about John Kavanagh, is you've never heard, well, let's make this fighter the next Connor. He is so focused on taking each and every fighter he works with and making them their absolute best to themselves. What has Coach John Kavanagh meant to you and your team at SBG Ireland? What have they meant to you so far in your career?
Yeah, well, I've been in SBG now for about 2.5 years. So from day one, really, you have John, and then you have Dave Roach, who's also one of the head coaches in the pro team, and they've really, I came down. Obviously, I had a good base from my old gym in Donegal, but I had a lot of bad habits, and they really just. I was too jiu-jitsu orientated, so they really put a lot of effort into fixing my style, not changing it, but fixing what worked and what didn't work. And they've just a lot of effort, and they really care about you progressing as a fighter and making the right choices in your career. So I really feel like they've got my back more than anything, and I'll just show up and do the work.
Well, that's very hard to find. At 24 years old, how do you not get distracted by everyday life? I know it's not like you're 17, but at 24, I know what I was doing at 24, and I wasn't competing on a world stage with one of the best promotions, fighting promotions in the world. So how do you not get thrown off your focus? How do you just kind of stay on task, stay focused, and know that you're just getting started in this career?
I think I got all that out of my system when I was a teenager. I fucking no focus. I definitely got it all out of my system. So I soon realized then, when I had a certain age, is like, you're gonna do this fucking about your whole life and become nothing, or are you gonna, all your friends are away to college, and everyone graduating from college and university, and what are you gonna have? So it's all or nothing. I have no college. I can't fail, really.
Now with Bellator 291, you'll be taking on Darragh Jordan. What do you expect to show in this fight?
a more calculated approach. Last time I wasn't very efficient with my energy and I forgot the game plan. I went in there to finish him. And I was sloppy all over the place, really. So this time you're going to see the same pressure, but it's going to be more calculated. And I'm going to be much more efficient.
What does this fight do for you to start this year? How many times are you looking to compete this year? Is it just one fight at a time, or do you kind of know what you want to accomplish in 2023?
Well, this fight's going to be the start. It's going to get me off to 2023 off to a one way, and I'm pretty confident I'll get 3 fights this year. Hopefully, I don't see why if I couldn't go in and put on an impressive performance, get him out of there early, why I couldn't be put onto the Paris card in May. Quick turnaround. If that could be, that would be great. Like, if not, I'm sure they'll have a Milan show in the summer, and then back to Dublin, September, November, later in the year, whatever the date is. So I'd be hoping for 3 fights, 3 wins this year. That's my plan.
That sounds like a hell of a plan, and you could sign me up to watch you fight 3 times this year. As a fan and somebody who covers the sport, I'll watch you fight 30 times in a year, but obviously that'd be a little crazy. But when you're talking about building yourself up and building your career, there are so many, especially young fighters, who don't kind of put in the other side of this business, which is you go in, you train, you compete, you make weight, you do all that, you get the wins. And some fighters are just okay trying to find their fans or their following by competing and going home. But in 2023, there's so much more to it, kind of showing your personality, social media, interviews like this. And then when you're fighting all over the world, eventually people are going to want to see you fight in the States. I love your plan for this year, but would you eventually like to come overseas and fight in the States?
Oh, yeah, like 100%. That's definitely something I really want to do. It's not going to be this year. As I said, if I finish the year 5-0, who knows, maybe 2024 I'll have a look in. I'd love to fight in the States, but mostly I'd love to fight in the East Coast somewhere. I'm not sure Bellator's ever had events in Boston, but if I could get a fight around Boston or somewhere around there, that would be great.
Man, that's music to my ears. I think I know why you said Boston. I've been there I'm from Chicago, so I'm in the middle of the States, but Boston's got such a rich history, a rich fighting history. I know Bellator has events in Connecticut, not too far away, but to get a fight in Boston, maybe me and you could start that campaign. I would love the Bellator to go to Boston. But back to you. Obviously 3 fights this year. I know you said you'd like to get them out in the first round, but outside of what you're bringing into the fight, into the cage, what do you want the fans that are watching Bellator 291 to know about you coming into this fight, and what should they expect? I know you said calculated approach, but what do you want the fans to know about you coming into this fight?
Well, I don't think I gave a good account of myself in my last fight. My pro debut, I was happy with that, and people seen the level that I am. And I think I let myself down a wee bit in the last fight, so I just want to, what would you say, reconfirm how good I am in this fight and show that the last one wasn't, I had a bad day at the office. That was it. It was a once off. I want to show that, show my level, show where I actually am at again, prove myself.
Just a couple more here for you, and I really do appreciate your time. 24 years old. We're talking about looking at 3 fights this year. How patient do you want to be as your career continues on? Because some fighters, they'll have early success, they'll have the fanfare that you have, they'll have the support you have. They may think they have the talent you have. I think it's very hard to find a man with the talent that you have, but they'll want to rush it. And sometimes the coaches will want to rush it. And I know that's not what your team wants, but how are you looking to approach your career? Is it just fight by fight? Do you know where you want to be in 3 years? How are you approaching your career?
Well, I've got a plan, a rough plan laid out in my head over the next few years. But I don't think there's any need to rush it. 24. I'm not the oldest, I'm not the youngest. I've plenty of time. If I could just keep knocking out 3 fights a year, I think that would be time enough. If you work that out, if I could keep my record going, 28, 29, you'd be in a good enough position to be in contention for the belt. Maybe, who knows? But so I don't think there's no point in rushing just yet.
One thing I do love is Bellator likes to find, talent that they can sign right away and build them up properly and keep them going. What has your relationship with Bellator been like so far? And when you look at the division, is there any dream fight that stands out to you there?
Bellator's been brilliant so far. Like, no complaints whatsoever. Anything they need, they're looking after you. And got a nice contract off them there, so I really can't complain. That's a 4-fight deal, so as I said, if I can finish that, one of them fights done, so 3 left, and then hopefully next year I can't complain again with another nice contract. As for dream fights, to be honest with you, I haven't actually thought too much about that, because I'd say my next 3 fights are going to be lower ranked guys. I know they're not, wouldn't be big names in the division. So I would say get these 3 out of the way, and then maybe I'll start looking into the bigger names, would you say?
I absolutely love the fact that, this is our first time talking. I love your mindset. I love your approach to your career. I couldn't be more excited to see you back in the cage February 25th at Bellator 291. And this is more not just a personal level, what gets you to the gym every day? What gets you to a place where early success in your career, early success in your professional career, doing so much, as you said, you got the partying and all the other stuff out of the way when you were younger, but there's always that something that drives the fighter to the gym. I know we were talking, trying to set this up, and you're training. You're talking to me right after training. That means the world to me, that you could be doing other things, but you made time for me, which I truly appreciate. What gets you to the gym every single day?
Well, at the start, when I started, I never really thought of this, but when I started fighting, it was like, I suppose it was to prove how tough I am, I suppose you could say, at the start. And I'd be like ultra competitive of everything. So then it became if I got beat, I really didn't like it. So like in the gym or whatever. So that would make me train harder than everyone else. I really, really hate losing. Even if it is in the gym, that's probably not the right attitude, but ultra competitive. And then now, obviously, there's money involved. So that drives me. Legacy and the fear of getting beat, because I know how bad that feeling could be if I'm in the 3 arena and there's 10,000 people watching me and I'm getting beat. I think that would be a rough couple of weeks after that one. So I'm not going to let that happen. Fuck that.
Well, I absolutely love it. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. I know it's the first time on the podcast. I hope it's not the last. I got 2 fun ones here for you. I know I don't look it, but I am part Irish, and I do have a St. Patrick's Day birthday. So
Nice.
Over here in the States, what is the proper way to celebrate a St. Patrick's Day birthday?
Oh, you just got to go to the pub all day, don't you? Get the rebel tunes on.
Yeah. Usually they try to. So here where I live, they do it the week before, and I'm like, no, that's like you're wasting the holiday. And everyone's like, no. And I'm like, no. We do it on St. Patrick's Day. They're like, how about the day before? I'm like, no, on St. Patrick's Day. And you'll go out, and there'll be people drunk at 9 a.m. So they're doing it better than I am. But I asked Sinead Kavanaugh the same thing, and she said it was easy, just get pissed all day. And I was like, perfect. I know what I'm doing. But the other question is, we've mentioned the arena, we've mentioned the crowd. Mm-hmm. As somebody who loves the Bellator Dublin shows, how important would you say it is for not just someone like myself, because it is a dream of mine to go overseas and cover an event in the 3 arena in Dublin, but how important is it for journalists and fans to kind of really dig in, as I'm trying to do this week, and learn about the Irish fighting culture, go to the 3 arena? We've talked about the atmosphere, but how important do you think it is to have media and everybody come over and kind of really learn what it's like to cover an event in Ireland?
Well, I don't know if this is the exact answer you want, but a lot of my friends now who came to the events before would just be supporting me. They wouldn't actually be like, they wouldn't be massively into MMA or whatever. They'd be watching football and Gaelic, and they wouldn't know much about the MMA scene. So, and I know there was a good few of them who was going to my pro debut, was their first event, and they thought they wouldn't have had much interest in it. But when they got there, they were shocked with the atmosphere and the energy of the fights. And I think there was a few new fans that day. And as for the media, then obviously it's very important for us, the fighters, to get the exposure. And what would you say?
I just think it's special, and I really encourage everyone. It's not a Bellator, Dublin card just to focus on. I think the same way the media covers fights here in the States needs to be the same way they cover, Bellator international events. You talked about Milan. There's so many other, the Paris show. There's so many places that I think I encourage the media and fans to really get on these cards, not that just happen in the States, but all over the world. Darragh Kelly, thank you so much for your time. I hope we can talk after your fight. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. You're one of my favorite young fighters to watch inside the cage. Like I said, it doesn't matter who's closing the show. When you come out, you're opening the show. You get the crowd going. I think everyone's drunk by the time you fight. I'm not sure. But no, it's very nice to talk to you for the first time. Hopefully it's not the last. I wish you all the best. Bellator 291, February 25th. You're taking on Dorval Jordan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.